Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Triple Double Africa podcast. My name is Levi Bass, and as always, I'm your host today. Today's guest is a man in red hot form and South Africa's very own giant, David Craig. Please introduce yourself, David.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? It's David Craig. Yeah, for those that don't know me, I'm from Joburg. I spent 7 years playing basketball in the US for school, high school a little bit, and then college. Played for MBB in the last BAL, and now I've decided to go play professionally in Germany.
Yes, I was actually going to congratulate you for signing with Temp Shooters, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing opportunity. I hope it brings you many buckets and much joy. How did this opportunity come about? I mean, um, you just recently signed.
So um, it was kind of like it was more of a long-winded process than what people would expect. Going into BL, I had the options to either return for my last year of college or go pro. And when I finally was able to come to the decision that I wanted to go pro, it
Yeah.
took quite a little bit of time, and I did have quite a few options, and also just getting acclimated and familiar with the professional landscape in general. All these things I kind of had to consider before I really took that jump and put pen to paper with anybody. So I was approached by a couple of agents and had an opportunity to also go play in China. But ultimately, the reason why I decided to sign with these guys in Germany is because my agent has got a good connection there with the head coach. They know each other quite well, and with my discussions with him, it seemed like to be like a very good place for me to start my career at. And um, I was able to have like some good discussions with the coach before we put pen to paper or did anything like that. And I wasn't rushed in the process. I knew I had quite a bit of time to make a decision. But I think ultimately, when my agent gave me the call and said like it was like now's the time. It was a very easy decision to make. Uh, the European landscape as a whole is very well respected. And I think in terms of my game, what it will do for me as a player, and just in life, the exposure as a whole, I see it's doing exponential things for me career wise.
No, absolutely. I mean, of course, there's the European basketball side of things, and Europe has really got a strong connection with the sport, as you mentioned. And yeah, just life as well. I'm sure it'll be absolutely amazing. So, taking it back a few steps before your professional journey, how did you find basketball?
So it's a bit of an unusual story actually. When I first obviously I had known about basketball, kind of just generally speaking.
Yeah.
But then one day was my mom had got a few PlayStation games from a colleague of hers for like cheap or something like that, or almost for free. I'm not sure. And one of the games was NBA 2K14.
Okay.
So, I saw LeBron James on the cover, and he's in his Miami Heat uniform doing this. Like his pregame ritual,
Yes.
and I was fascinated by it. So I was like, yeah, let me try playing it. So I did, and yeah, like my curiosity just grew from that point onwards to where I was like, yeah, now I have to see what this is like in real life, just to compare. And so it started out like slowly, and then it
Yes.
built up more and more. I made some friends playing basketball, and it became like a new, fresh thing for me. And so um, I was playing a lot of other sports during the summer because this all happened when I was around like 12. I
Okay.
was a rugby player, cricket player, tennis player. I played squash. I mean, like, dude, I couldn't stick to one sport. And then basketball, like, totally changed my world upside down. I fell in love with it because it was something about like how the ball was just a direct result of body movements and hand placement, coordination, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And just it being something new and vibrant, it gave me a sense of like a sense of fun and enjoyment that I wasn't getting from any other sports. So I started when I was
Okay.
12, and I started taking it seriously like maybe a year or two later.
Okay, that's amazing. And obviously, your height and physique suits the sport perfectly.
Hmm.
I did a bit of research beforehand, and this is a bit of a random fact, like not a bit useless, but the tallest man in South Africa is probably you, because according to
Yeah,
Google,
yeah,
according to Google, the tallest man in South Africa measured at 7'1" or 216 centimeters, which is shorter than you.
yeah, you know,
Okay.
not a lot of people know that actually, and I don't say it a lot because I have enough spotlight as it is, but I actually think that I'm the tallest recorded man in South Africa now. Like I hold the title. But it's interesting,
Well,
It's interesting. A lot of people don't know this. I actually started playing basketball when I was still like a point guard, average sized.
you started as a point guard.
Yeah,
Then I'm sure you moved up the positions, up from one to
yeah.
five pretty quickly.
Obviously, I had massive growth spurts, and I had to completely change how I
Yeah.
played. But still, a lot of people don't know that.
Yes. And I believe your brother also plays.
Yeah. So my
Yes.
brother, yeah, my brother's now he's got a 9 to 5 job. He's
Yes.
working in the corporate life. So yeah, but interestingly enough, my brother kind of got the same trick as I did in the way that our story started with basketball. But he was, when we first started out, he had got more exposure to coaching than I did, and so not only that, he took it more seriously than I did to begin with. What I thought was
Oh,
sort of
wow.
like fun. He kind of dove head first, and he kind of became like my personal trainer. Whenever we worked out together, he would tell me things that he had been coached on, and things that he had seen watching YouTube tutorials and things like that. So
Yeah.
my brother for a long time, and even to this day, he still does mentor me. Like I consult him about things, not necessarily for basketball as much anymore, but stuff like nutrition and a lot of the nerdy biokinetic stuff because
Okay.
he's really intelligent and he's really into all that stuff and he's very well informed. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing to have that relationship. And I have seen him play adverts, so he's also
Yeah.
a very good player. And moving to the next step, you went to play high school and college in the US. How was this jump from South Africa to, do you kind of get thrown in the deep end, or did you have a quick adjustment?
No, there's no such thing as a quick adjustment unless you're just one in a million talent. There's
Yeah.
always you're gonna get thrown into the deep end, and you just gotta learn how to swim. Um, I think my first like year or two really it took me like around 2 years to actually just getting used to the style of play in America. Never
Yeah.
mind, like performing that well and all that stuff. I was a pretty, I was okay, but I wasn't all that. My first 2 years there,
Okay.
like, dude, when I first got there, I'll never forget my first game. I wasn't even playing. So the way it works in high school in the US is you have varsity and junior varsity. I was playing on
Yes.
the junior varsity team, so not even the best team. Must have
Okay.
played like 4 minutes, and I had like 2 points and 5 turnovers, and it was a mess, dude. It was a total mess, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very humbling experience. And I had to learn. I had to learn how to lift weights. I had to learn how to play in a new system with a lot more X and O's and different style of play, different changes of speed, and a lot more 3-point shooting.
Yes.
And even just the mental side of things, there's a ton of
Yeah,
pressure. There's a ton of pressure. You're a 15-year-old kid. Everybody's saying that, when you go, you have to. They're basically telling you that you have to make it work. And you're a
yeah,
15-year-old kid. You're just now learning how to live on your own in a completely new country. You don't have any friends just yet. You don't have a support system. There's so many hurdles that you have to jump through. Um,
yeah,
so overall, dude, it was extremely difficult, and that's part of the reason why I generally am I'm quite reluctant to actually tell people to make that jump for themselves because you have to have like every single necessary quality imaginable just to get your foot in the door. Like you got to work hard, you got
yeah.
to be tall enough, you got to have a mind for the game, and the list just goes on and on and on and on. So it was very difficult.
Yeah, it sounds like a not an, it's definitely far from an easy experience going there and especially like going there and doing something. You can go there and not do well. And I'm sure there's a
Yeah,
difference in
and yes,
there's a
and
big difference in
unfortunately, there's examples of that as well. There's not a lot of people who actually go to the US and manage to make success of it, as it will. There's a lot more examples of people falling short than actually making to where they want to go.
yeah, which is unfortunate, but I guess it's the reality of the sport.
Definitely.
And you mentioned that you had the opportunity to study an extra year in college and you came back to play for MBB. Is that true?
Yeah, so I only did 3 years of college, and then MBB came as an opportunity. At first, just with where things were at the time, it seemed like it would be good exposure for me, even recruiting wise in college, but also
Yeah.
professionally. It just kind of it gave me an opportunity to have all my options open.
Okay.
Um, but ultimately, playing in Kigali and having that experience, especially playing against some of the talents that were there, guys like Jean-Jacques Boissy, Jalen
He was
Adams,
he's a good
Ali Diarra, and even some of the guys on my team, like T-Fell Leonard and Kid Winston. It's like,
Siobhan.
yeah, exactly. So you go from that to where I was recruiting wise because of the fact that there were so many complications with my college experience, which is story for another time. I didn't
Yeah.
have a lot of film. I didn't have a lot of people recruiting me just because there wasn't a lot of footage of me. So there's a bunch of questions about themselves, especially from a leisure perspective. And I really was not trying to go and play like a B2 or all that stuff, especially as like I'm dominated to be one now. I'm not. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite a, it's not an easy way to put this. It was quite an Olympic situation that I got into, because of various things that mentioned at later points. The point was like, it didn't even seem worth it anymore to actually go back. Like, there's nothing, there's nothing that is so great for me to make that sacrifice for going another entire year away from my family in the US, starting over again, rebuilding a support system, some type of consistency to play at the
Okay.
level that I played well enough at that point. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what made it easy for me to decide to get pro. Like, I mean, if I showed out the BAL, why wouldn't I try? Why wouldn't I try my luck again?
Well, listen, the opportunity you took and you did amazing. You were definitely one of MBB's standout players and someone the fans really enjoyed watching in Kigali. You had very little preparation as a team before the tournament. Some players came very quickly before you guys even went to Kigali. Do you think that affected the overall chemistry of the team?
Yeah. So this is one of the I think this was one of the biggest obstacles that we had for MVP. Um, I wasn't even one of the last guys to arrive. Uh, T-Fal
Yes.
Leonard came after me. I think I arrived on like the 3rd of May or something. So
Yes.
we only had a couple of weeks. T-Fal Leonard came after me, and then Robinson the Pong even came after
Yeah.
him. So, with only a couple weeks practice, there's only so much you can do. And I think you could even tell from game to game that chemistry, you can even tell that the chemistry,
Yeah,
was picking up. But yeah, so the style of play did change from what NBA was doing in the lead up and growing to BL, this that, and the other. And I think part of that also is that Sam Vincent was brought in as well. So there was
yeah,
not there was not only was there player changes, but there's also now a different coaching change. So
yeah.
naturally, style of playing got altered a little bit. Um, different philosophies, and so overall the team went through a lot of change. I think that happened just too close to BL. Especially when you look at teams like Al Tripoli, who had training camp
Yeah.
for like a month or something in Turkey, I believe, or in Istanbul.
And as well as that, they play an entire league season before that as a team, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing about it. This is an ongoing thing that I think several players have talked about is there's not a lot of local competition to properly prepare you for BL.
Yeah,
Um, so we 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 eventually just decided that it was best if we scrimmage each other because
really.
trying to find. I mean, we played against Rise and Grind, which was like
I remember
uh,
Rise and Grind. I watched the first game at Mandeville.
yeah. So that was a couple of games, and that was like off of like one or two practices, and half of the starters are still like tired out of their mind from jet lag. Being
Yeah,
one of them. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a bit too much too late.
yeah. It's obviously it can show. I mean, give MBB something to work on next year. But moving on from that, I'd like to know from you, what do you enjoy outside of basketball?
Man. Um, well, I'll say this first and foremost. My spiritual walk is by far the most important thing to me. As a Christian, what I believe in.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I've done quite a deep and intensive study of theology over the years. I've considered even going. There was a point in time where I even considered when I was considering like completely stopping playing basketball and actually going to seminary school, which is basically you go to
Yes.
school to learn the Hebrew and Greek scriptures of the Bible, and you get trained into becoming like a deacon or a pastor or priest or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So um, that that still reigns in my life. But besides for that, I love playing video games. Even though I really don't get to do it that much.
Okay.
Yeah, I was once really big on video games, but I've also found now, like as I've grown and I'm a little bit more mature. The small things like nature walks or
Mm.
going fishing. I like to journal as well.
Journaling.
I was a creative writing major. Just for the simple fact that like I can write and really get my thoughts like display my thoughts in a very abstract way, like very, very circular thinking, not very linear, much more symphony like. And so I'd say those things, and of course I'm quite a social guy, so there's not a lot of things that I necessarily won't do as long as, there's some people I know I can have fun with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. And it's great to see you have the spiritual aspect of your life as well, because it's very important, obviously. And in terms of personal goals, I mean, do you have any upcoming things you'd like to achieve on and off the court?
Yeah. Um, a goal of mine, anytime I come back to South Africa, and just my goal overall, I think, with my career is, and I've kind of talked about this before, I, I'm very big on giving back. And
Yeah.
while I'm here, there's a few things I've been doing to give back. I don't want to mention what they are, just for the sake of privacy, but
Okay.
coaching.
housing.
Coaching in some areas, doing clinics and stuff for some things, and just finding ways like that to give back is always a goal of mine, and that's something I like. I'll talk about this.
Yeah,
That's like the biggest dream of it all is to eventually build up enough, not necessarily just off of my work alone, but to build enough connections with people over the years, gather enough expertise, and just to be able to formulate a game plan to where you know, collectively, South African basketball players, professional basketball players, can work up a plan of some sorts. Not everyone, but I like to think some of us to just be able to put South African basketball a little bit more on the front foot because the amount of talent that South African basketball has, it's not replicated by the coaching and development side of things.
not at
That's
all.
not even close. So that's a big area that needs improving because it can change kids' lives. It can generally change a whole kid's life. That doesn't even have to be that the kid goes on and travels around the world and plays professionally. For some kids, it might just be a vehicle to get to university. It might just be, you know, a job that they do for 5, 10 years until they're able to get on and like to get on their feet. Or
Yes,
even if it's just to keep kids away from doing drugs or something like
100%.
there's no there's no there's no like linear path for a kid to take with with this goal in mind.
Yeah,
But ultimately speaking, like South Africa has a talent, has enough talent, and I think if people are able to work together, we can put together enough resource to where we can be like Egypt and Nigeria and these other big giants of African basketball. That's the step that we actually need to take more than anything because
yes,
NBA Africa have offices in Dublin. And they've
yeah.
been
I
pouring
mean,
into
they
it.
do.
We can't be the hosts of BAL and not be able to put together a really good, a really formidable team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So the potential for South African basketball is limitless, so to speak. So I'd say that's one of the goals. And then the other one, the other one I'd say just career wise, man, I think especially playing in Pro B, I want to be able to show that my game is expanding more. I
yes.
felt like playing in the American system is they're very raw and system based, and they basically
Oops.
stuff like I wasn't allowed to take mid range jump shots or faced up a lot. It was very much like the basic stuff: pick and roll, post up, catch the ball and block, jump hooks, drop steps, that type of stuff. I want to show that I've been working on my game and that as much as I'm a traditional big man, so to speak, I can
Yeah.
still, adjust in the modern game.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And hopefully Europe will give that opportunity to you. Even, I mean, if you look at the top levels of America and the top levels of Europe, the EuroLeague and the NBA have very different rules. The courts are smaller. It makes it a different game. And I'm sure that affects the lower levels, such as college and the, how do I say it? The domestic leagues.
Hmm.
So those those rules and those systems really must make a difference in
Yeah,
how the game is played and what the game is.
yeah, 100%. I think this is a general thing with a lot of international kids that go and play at the college levels. It's quite a shock actually, just how different it is. I've had a couple teammates from overseas, and I've seen it now with international opponents. Is there
Yeah,
is a real learning curve that even kids that come from Europe and have played, in these grassroots clubs and all that, come over to college and play, and there's still like a lot of adjustments to be made. So, I mean, I couldn't say it enough that like style of play is a huge factor in someone's career. And that's another
yes,
piece of advice I just give to kids in general is like you gotta go to the places that are gonna appreciate your style of play. My style
yeah,
of play isn't appreciated and especially in mid major collegiate basketball, my style of play is
yeah,
basically extinct. So you gotta go with you are going to be valued.
yeah. definitely. And where your skill set suits. I mean, some players will suit the American style of play, and then they must go there, and that's great. But for players like you, as you mentioned, you weren't allowed to express yourself on the court with to your true potential. It's probably better to go elsewhere.
Hmm.
So the next round of questions I have for you, it's probably the last, and it's what I like to call the quickfire section. So basically, I'm going to give you 5 questions, and I just want you to answer them with the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
So your first one is best friend in basketball. Okay, that's a good answer. Best ever teammate.
Shannon Grant.
Okay, that was in the US.
Yeah. We played together when I was at Mercer my freshman year.
Okay, very nice. The toughest player you've ever had to guard.
Jalen McCreary.
Okay. I was expecting one of the Bell guys, surprisingly, like Jean-Jacques
Well, I didn't
Boyce.
necessarily have to guard those guys, like
Oh yeah,
once
true,
he was
true.
a point
It
guard.
would
I
have had
mean,
to be a big.
I'm not gonna give Ndoima his flowers because if you go watch the film, I kind of blocked him out. Just if we're being honest,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Your favorite player growing up?
Kobe.
Okay. Yeah, obviously when you were watching, you said you started in 2014, so it was towards the end of Kobe's career,
Yeah.
it's, but I'm sure he had a massive influence on you. And last one is favorite city you've played basketball in?
New York.
New York.
New York.
Okay, I was also expecting a different answer. I was expecting you to say Kigali.
Man, the thing is, like, dude, I got to go and play Rucker Park.
Yeah, true.
Like, Kigali was cool, but
Yeah,
dude, like, okay, let me say this. Kigali, I would say Kigali in terms of like game atmosphere. In that sense,
yeah,
by far. But
yes.
being able to like go and visit Rucker Park and just in New York in general, it's almost like you visit the basketball mecca. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that sense, it's New York, but game atmosphere wise, 100% Kigali, 100%.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But New York, you definitely made a good point with you can just probably go play basketball at any park and just enjoy yourself there. And that's pretty much everything I have for you. I really wanted to thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hey
It's
man,
really been
it's a pleasure, bro. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you to all the listeners who tune into the podcast, and I can't wait for the next episode.
All right.
Uh, Bye, everyone.
Cheers, man. Thanks, my guy.